So let's take a look at our CSS styles panel. And at the very top, I mentioned make sure you click on all instead of current. If I had something in here and chose current, then I could see just what the current selection is, and we'll click on that when we have some styles back again. I have a window for all of my rules and then the properties that go along with those rules. On the left-hand side at the bottom, I have 3 different windows. I can show my category view, I can show a list view, and just the properties only for that particular set. We'll click on these again once we actually have something in our file. So on the right-hand side, I have several different buttons as well. I can attach a style sheet, I can create a new CSS rule. It's grayed out at the moment, but I can edit, disable, and trash something. So we need to actually attach our style sheet. So go ahead and click on attached, and we get this great little dialog box that tells me what file or URL do I want, and I can also browse to it. Then I can add that as either a link or I can import it. Now the problem with importing is it throws it right back inside of my head tags where we just took the other one out of. And then once I have that, I've got several different types of media type. It's just good practice to go ahead and get yourself used to using these on a regular basis, because if I declare what my main CSS is, which would be my screen style, then when I choose handheld or braille or teletype or TV or projection or handheld or even print, then those will automatically be used for those particular devices or when I print, etc. So I'm going to choose screen, and I'm going to browse to my assets folder in my CSS and to my style and click OK. Now, while I'm in this dialog box, I also want to point out that every time I do this, I'm taking a look at my URL down here underneath this little horizontal line. So my URL, assets, CSS, my style, and it's relative to the document that I'm using at the time. Now we need to pay close attention to this, because whenever I create a new page, depending on where that page is at, if it's inside another folder, etc., my pathing may be a little different. So I'm just going to click OK. It is indeed screen, so I know what type it is, and now I'm going to click OK. So our page still isn't all that pretty yet, but if I twirl down my arrow, or on the PC here, my little plus, I see that I have all of those styles. So I see that I have a body style, and my cursor here, let me collapse my files panel so I can actually see my CSS styles. Now depending how big your screen is and how you like to work, I could also tear this out of here, and I could put this in anywhere that I wanted. So maybe I might want this inside with my insert, and I just wait until I see that nice big thick blue line all the way around and it's inside of that particular panel. Or if I wanted it all on its own, then I could wait till I see the thick blue line just between those two panels, and I could drop that and have it be in its own particular panel. And I could also drop this on either side of the page that I wanted. So if I'm going to pull it all the way over to the left, I see that now I've got a little bit smaller area in the middle, but I have a panel on the left, and I also have my panels on the right. Once again, if I wanted this to be my new workspace, I would go up to Designer or to my window menu and say New Workspace. So this is my new workspace. Not a bad idea having my CSS styles all by themselves over on the left-hand side. Again, just depending on how much room that you have. And I hope you all have 2 nice huge monitors. I know that's not always the case, but I hope you all have nice big monitors. I don't have that much room, so I'm going to go ahead and pull mine back over maybe next to my insert bar. So let's take a closer look at the elements on my page. I'll fold that back up so I can actually see this. So if I click on that very first button down here and show category, I can see all the categories that I could possibly choose for that particular element. So I could do font style or line height, and I've got all of them showing here. So background and border and block level elements, etc. If I click on that second button over and show just my list view, then I can see the properties for that, but I can also then see other things that I might want to choose as well. Now the third view is my favorite view, strictly because then I can see the actual properties for that particular element. Now I'm going to click on, say, my heading 1 here on my page, and if I click on current over in my CSS panel, I see a summary for that particular selection. So I see that I've got my font family, my font size, and a color. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit. And here we have two different buttons. So this shows me what's basically defined for that particular rule. And if I click on this button over on the farthest side, that's my cascade. So basically what I'm talking about when I say cascade is what elements above it, so what parent elements have already been defined so that I don't actually have to define anything for this particular element. So my body tag already has some things defined, which is my font style, for instance, has already been defined. And my rule for my H1 is right next to it, because really the only other parent element is my body tag at this point. If I click on another element here, so my P tag, for instance, again, I should be aware of what things that my body tag already has defined. So for instance, if I wanted my P tag or my paragraphs to be the same font as the body tag, then I don't need to redefine those again here. So here I've decided that I want my font to be a different size than my body. I've got a margin top and a margin bottom, whereas my body tag has said everything to be a margin of 0. As we get into more elements, we'll be able to see that cascade just a little bit better. So when your cursor sits anywhere on the page long enough, you get this icon that pops up. Now this icon is our code navigator. Now when I roll my cursor over it, I can click on it. When I click on it, I see my cascade, and then I can click on an element. And in this case, I can see that I have a margin top, a margin bottom, a font size, and a line height. And I can just Alt-click to show that, or Command-Option-click on the Mac to show that. And anytime that I would like, I don't have to wait for the icon to pop up. I can open that with those keyboard shortcuts anytime I would like. So Alt-click here on the PC to bring that open. Now, sometimes that icon can be a little distracting, so I can disable that, but then I would have to use my keyboard shortcut to bring that open. Now, there's one more place that we need to look at before we move on to our next lesson, and that is our actual property inspector. On my CSS button here, I can see that I have a targeted rule right now for my P. If I click on that, then I also see the capability of seeing the cascade, that really at this point, my only parent container is my body tag. I could create a new rule from here. I could create a new inline style. Heaven forbid I should create a new inline style, but there are times when it does come in handy. I can apply a class from here if there were any classes that I could apply to that particular element. I do have the container, although where my cursor is selected at the moment, I probably wouldn't want to apply my container to that. And I could apply or just remove a class from here. So next we'll take a look at more in depth into our panel and our property inspector, and we'll actually start applying those things to this particular page.